There's a specific kind of loss that does not feel like loss at first. It feels like destruction. Like everything you built, everything you relied on, everything that gave your life its structure and its sense of forward movement is being systematically removed. Not one thing at a time, in a way that would be manageable, but simultaneously, in a way that leaves you standing in a landscape that no longer resembles the one you were navigating. The job shifts. The relationship changes. The plan falls apart. The identity you had built around your pursuit starts to feel hollow. The certainty you had about your direction dissolves. And you stand in the middle of all this removal, wondering what you did wrong, what you missed, what decision you should have made differently that would have prevented the dismantling of the life you were building. And the answer, the one I want to spend the rest of this conversation walking you through, is that you did not do anything wrong. You did not miss anything. There is no decision you should have made differently. Because what is happening to you right now is not the consequence of error. It is the signature of an imminent breakthrough. Not a small one, not an incremental improvement or a moderate upgrade in your circumstances. The biggest one. The one that changes the fundamental shape of your life rather than just improving conditions within the existing shape. And the reason everything is being removed right now is that the breakthrough cannot arrive in the space you currently occupy. The space has to be cleared first. And the clearing, from inside it, feels like destruction. But from the vantage point of what comes after, it will look like exactly what it was. Preparation. Let me explain the mechanism, because I think understanding it changes everything about how you experience what you are currently in. The mechanism is not mysterious, and it is not arbitrary. It follows a logic that, once you see it, makes the removal feel less like catastrophe and more like the intelligent operation of a process that knows what it is doing, even when you do not. Every life exists within a certain structure, a particular arrangement of relationships, circumstances, identities, roles, and habitual ways of operating. And this structure, whatever its specific content, has a characteristic range of possibilities contained within it. There are things that are possible within this structure and things that are not. Things that can happen given this particular arrangement and things that cannot happen because the arrangement does not have the conditions they require. Most of the time, this is fine. The structure supports a good enough life. It provides the conditions for progress and growth and achievement within a certain range. But when a breakthrough is approaching, a genuinely large one, it almost always has requirements that the current structure cannot meet. The breakthrough needs conditions that do not exist in the current arrangement. It needs space that is occupied by existing structures. It needs the energy that is currently going into maintaining existing commitments. It needs you to show up in ways that the current structure does not allow, because the current structure has already defined your role in ways that are incompatible with the role the breakthrough requires you to play. So the breakthrough and the current structure are in conflict. The breakthrough cannot arrive into the current arrangement. The space is wrong. The conditions are wrong. The version of you that the current structure supports is not the version of you the breakthrough requires. And something has to give. What gives is the structure. The deeper intelligence of your own life removes the structure, not to destroy you, but to create the conditions the breakthrough requires. The removal of the existing structure is the creation of the space, the conditions, the freedom, and the version of you that the breakthrough needs in order to arrive. So the removal and the breakthrough are not separate things. They are not the removal happening to you and the breakthrough happening for you. They are two aspects of the same process. The removal is the breakthrough in its early stage, the clearing phase that necessarily precedes the arriving phase. I want to get specific about what is actually being removed and why each thing has to go, because the specificity is what makes this feel real rather than theoretical. When a major breakthrough is approaching, things tend to be removed in a particular order and for particular reasons. Understanding those reasons helps you see the intelligence at work in the process. The first thing that tends to be removed is the identity that was defining you too narrowly. The role, the category, the primary framework through which you understood who you were and what you were doing in the world. This narrow definition has to go, because the breakthrough is going to require you to be larger than it. The version of you that the breakthrough requires cannot be contained by the old definition. So the definition is removed, often through the removal of the circumstances that maintained it, and you are left, for a time, without the clear identity structure that told you who you were. This is disorienting in the extreme, because human beings orient by identity, and the removal of the primary identity structure leaves you feeling unmoored in a way that is genuinely difficult to navigate. But the unmooring is necessary. You cannot become the larger version of yourself that the breakthrough requires while you are still fully defined and contained by the old, smaller version. The second thing that tends to be removed is the relationship, or relationships, that were keeping you in a dynamic the breakthrough cannot coexist with. Not necessarily because those relationships were bad, or because the people in them are bad, but because certain relationships carry with them certain roles, certain ways of being, certain dynamics that are incompatible with the new configuration your life needs to take. When the relationship shifts, or ends, or changes in its fundamental character, it is not just the loss of the relationship. It is the release from the role the relationship maintained, the dynamic it sustained, the version of you it required. And the release, however painful, creates the space for a new relational configuration that fits the life the breakthrough is building. The third thing that tends to be removed is the plan. The specific strategy, the particular path, the concrete vision of how you were going to get from where you were to where you wanted to be. The plan goes because the breakthrough has a different path than the one you were on. And as long as you are committed to the old path, you cannot take the new one. The removal of the plan is the opening of the possibility space, from the specific to the general, from the narrow path you were on, to the wide open territory that the breakthrough is going to navigate in ways you could not have planned from your previous position. The planlessness is temporary, but it is necessary. You have to be without the old plan before the new direction can make itself known. I want to talk about the emotional experience of the removal, because the intellectual understanding that this is preparation for a breakthrough does not automatically make the emotional experience any easier. And the emotional experience deserves to be acknowledged fully, rather than bypassed in the rush to the reassuring interpretation. The removal, even when you understand it as preparation, is genuinely painful. What is being removed was real. It mattered. You built real things, invested real energy, created real meaning around the structures that are now being dismantled. And losing them is a real loss. Even if the loss is in service of something better, even if the clearing is intelligent and purposeful, what is being cleared was yours. And grieving it is not weakness or lack of faith. It is the appropriate human response to genuine loss. So do not try to skip the grief in the name of trusting the process. The process does not require you to feel nothing about what is being removed. It does not require you to maintain a spiritual equanimity that is disconnected from the real human experience of having your structure dismantled. You can trust that the removal is preparation and still feel the loss of what is being removed. Both are true simultaneously. The loss is real and the purpose is real. The pain is appropriate and the trust is appropriate. You do not have to choose between grieving what is gone and believing in what is coming. You can hold both. And holding both is more honest and more sustainable than trying to transcend the grief in the name of positivity. What the grief requires is that you feel it rather than avoid it. Because avoided grief becomes stuck grief, and stuck grief is the one form of grief that actually interferes with the forward movement the clearing is meant to enable. Felt grief moves. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when it is allowed to move through that arc, it completes itself and releases you. Avoided grief does not complete. It remains present as a background sadness that colors everything without ever resolving. It keeps you partially back in the cleared space, rather than fully available to what the clearing was making room for. So feel the grief, all of it. Let it be as large as it actually is. And trust that feeling it fully is part of what allows the completion of the clearing and your availability for the arrival. There is something I want to say about the between time, the period after the removal and before the breakthrough arrives. Because this between time has specific qualities that make it the most challenging part of the process, the part that most people find hardest to navigate. The between time is the period of maximum exposure. Everything that gave your life its structure, its meaning, its direction, has been removed. And what is replacing it has not yet arrived. You are in the open space, the cleared ground, the empty room. And the emptiness is real, and it is vast. and it is very easy to interpret it as evidence that the clearing was not preparation, but simply destruction. That nothing is coming. That the removal was not the beginning of something, but simply the end of everything. This interpretation is the primary danger of the between time. Not because you are weak for entertaining it, but because it is the interpretation the circumstances most strongly support. The evidence available to you in the between time is evidence of absence. The things that were there are gone. The things that are coming have not yet appeared. And from within that absence, with no visible evidence of what is approaching, the conclusion that nothing is approaching is the conclusion the available evidence supports. Acting on that conclusion, making decisions from within the between time, based on the interpretation that the removal was simply destruction, tends to interfere with the arrival of what is actually coming. It fills the cleared space with whatever is most immediately available, rather than waiting for what was being made room for. So the between time requires something that is genuinely difficult to maintain in the absence of evidence. It requires the continuation of your orientation toward what is coming, without the confirmation that it is coming. It requires you to keep the space open, to resist the urge to fill the cleared ground with whatever is nearest, just to escape the discomfort of the openness. It requires a patience that is not passive. Not the patience of someone waiting without direction, but the active patience of someone who knows that the space is being held for something specific, and who is deliberately keeping it available for that thing to arrive. This active patience, in the between time, is one of the most important and most difficult practices of the entire process. Let me talk about the signs that the breakthrough is approaching, because knowing what to look for helps you recognize the arrival when it begins. The first sign is a return of a specific quality of energy that was absent during the clearing. Not the frenetic energy of the old structure, but a different energy, quieter and more focused, that begins to gather around a particular direction. You start to feel drawn toward something. Not pushed by the anxiety of the old structure, but pulled by a genuine pull towards something that the clearing revealed was actually in alignment with you, in a way the old structure was not. This pull, when it begins to be felt, is the first sign that the breakthrough is beginning its approach. The second sign is the appearance of new possibilities that were genuinely not visible before the clearing. Not just options you did not have time to consider, but things that were structurally invisible from within the old structure. Things that could not have been perceived because the old structure was occupying the space of awareness where they would have appeared. The clearing created the visibility by removing what was blocking it. And the new possibilities that begin to appear in the cleared space are things that were always there, but could not be seen from your previous position. Their appearance is a sign that the clearing is complete enough that the breakthrough is beginning to take form. The third sign is a changed relationship to the things that were removed. Where initially their absence felt like loss, it begins to feel more like relief. Not because you do not care about them, but because from the other side of the clearing, you can see more clearly why they had to go. What the dynamic was, what the role was, why they were incompatible with the life that is now becoming possible. The relief is not callousness about what was lost. It is the recognition, beginning to dawn, that the loss was also a liberation. That what was removed was also constraining in ways you could not see while you were inside the structure it maintained. So here is where I want to leave you. The universe temporarily removes everything right before your biggest life breakthrough, because the breakthrough cannot arrive in the space you currently occupy. The existing structure has to be cleared to create the conditions, the space, the freedom, and the version of you that the breakthrough requires. The removal is not destruction, it is preparation. Two phases of the same process, the clearing and the arriving, separated by the between time, where the clearing is complete and the arrival has not yet occurred. What is being removed was real, and grieving it is appropriate. Do not try to skip the grief in the name of trusting the process. Feel it fully and let it move, because felt grief completes itself and releases you, while avoided grief keeps you partially back in the cleared space and interferes with your availability for what the clearing was making room for. Navigate the between time by maintaining active patience. Keep the space open. Resist the urge to fill the cleared ground with whatever is nearest. Continue to orient toward what is coming, without requiring the evidence that it is coming, which the between time structurally cannot yet provide. And watch for the signs that the breakthrough is approaching. the return of a quiet, gathered energy pulling towards something. The appearance of new possibilities that were structurally invisible from within the old arrangement. And the changed relationship to what was removed, from pure loss toward a growing recognition of liberation. These signs are the breakthrough beginning to make itself known in the cleared space. The first visible evidence of what the removal was creating room for. The biggest breakthrough of your life is on its way. The removal you are in is the proof of its imminence, not the evidence of its absence. The space is being cleared for something that could not arrive any other way. And what arrives in that cleared space, when it arrives, will make the entire process of the removal finally and completely make sense. So hold the space, keep your orientation, and trust the intelligence of a process that is doing something you cannot yet see, in the cleared ground of your life that is going to change everything.